1 week until Joe Biden swaps the new codes for pudding cups, and the old man starting his farewell tour. Biden giving a speech today, spinning his foreign policy record as a plus, despite handing Trump a world in chaos.
A new era has begun. In these 4 years, we faced crises that we've been tested. We've come through those tests stronger, in my view, than we entered those tests. So when I took office, I had a choice. Ultimately, I saw no reason to keep thousands of servicemen in Afghanistan. It was time to end the war and bring our troops home, and we did. They don't even believe climate change is real. I think they come from a different century. They're wrong. They are dead wrong.
Boy, who the hell is he talking to at this point?
The discussion today sketches a stark political landscape on the brink of change. With biting sarcasm and sharp irony, it criticizes Joe Biden's leadership and champions a return to American strength. The words serve as a rallying cry against outdated excuses, urging a shift toward decisive, robust governance.
Yeah, you know, Judge, he reminds me of a pathetic villain in a movie. The movie's over, he lost, the credits have rolled, people have left the theater, and he's still there going, what do I do next? I thought I did a great job.
Well, the fact is that he's still saying that he could have beat Trump, and he said Kamala could have beat Trump.
Yeah, he's senile.
Kamala lost to Trump. I mean, the man is a mess. But there are two things that I come away with having read this. He's delusional. He says that we've reclaimed American global leadership and we've put our adversaries in a position of weakness. Who's he talking about?
The account deepens as it explores the chaotic theatrics of the current administration, set against a backdrop where every misstep is met with unrelenting derision. The stark contrasts between leadership styles are drawn sharply, invoking the memory of a past where American might and pride were non-negotiable values. Here, the disdain for what is seen as weak governance is evident, and the call for a return to forceful, decisive action reverberates through every carefully chosen quote. The words strike with precision, targeting what many see as a failure to live up to the standards of leadership America once knew. The energy is relentless and unapologetic, a rallying cry for a more robust future.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, that's okay, but I expect more. Happy Monday, everyone. So President-elect Donald Trump has been preparing more than 100 executive orders starting day one of the new White House. And thanks to Joe Biden, 99 of them have to do with removing the carpet stains in the Oval Office. Yeah. And yet another interview with the corpse that wouldn't leave. President now says, quote, I could have beaten Trump, and I think that Kamala could have beaten Trump. He added, if you don't believe me, just ask my good friend Jimmy Carter.
As the narrative unfolds, the polemic dissects Biden's presidency with razor-sharp commentary. The presentation contrasts perceived strength versus weakness, a theme that resonates with those longing for a revival of past glory. The words leave little room for ambiguity or compromise, striking hard at Biden's leadership and the associated policy failures. The tone remains unambiguous, painting his tenure in a light that challenges the status quo and beckons for decisive change.
His national security advisor went on over the weekend and says it's definitely a success, and that history will see as a success. That's like giving an economic speech and ignoring inflation, which is what they did, which is why he's not president again, by the way. I also think that when you remember a couple weeks ago, or was it even last week, when he yelled at the reporters and said, I know more world leaders than all of you. What did that get us?
The discussion becomes even more scathing, circling back to criticize the shortcomings of Biden's policy and rhetoric. The disillusionment with a government that continues to stumble echoes in every word, demanding accountability and change. The reflection insists that the legacy of a failed leadership is not just about poor policy, but also about lost pride and the erosion of national credibility. Each quote reinforces the sentiment that the current approach is outdated and in opposition to the ideals of strength and decisiveness.
Americans are being assaulted by illegals who are let in by you, by criminals who are not being kept in jail because of Democrats. I mean, the whole thing is crazy. And my second point and last point is this. I grew up in an all-American family. My father was a veteran. My mother was pretty much a housewife. Everything was great. It was God, church, and country and family. And when Joe Biden left Afghanistan, he left before all the Americans were out of Afghanistan. And for the first time, I realized that the cavalry isn't always coming, that we will leave soldiers behind. And that's on Joe Biden.
This segment unveils the raw emotion behind the conservative critique, a criticism not solely of policies, but of an entire way of life that seems under siege. The speaker underscores the importance of national unity and the memory of a time when American values were defended without compromise. The lament for a lost era is palpable, serving as a stark reminder that leadership matters, especially when national security and heritage are on the line.
Everything was great. It was God, church, and country, and family. And when Joe Biden left Afghanistan, he left before all the Americans were out of Afghanistan. And for the first time, I realized that the cavalry isn't always coming, that we will leave soldiers behind.
The words weave together personal conviction and political fervor, building an image of a country yearning for a return to order and traditional values. The speaker challenges the current state of affairs, insisting on the importance of remembering and honoring the sacrifices that built this nation. With every quote, the call for accountability grows louder, striking at the heart of what many believe to be a dangerous deviation from patriotism.
What's the Biden doctrine? I have no idea. The Biden mantra was don't. Everybody violated it. He's probably not going to get a presidential library, and that's good because there's really not a lot to say.
The tone now takes on an air of finality. The biting critique exposes a leadership that seems inept and dismissive of the values that once forged American greatness. Each word drives home the message that a new chapter is imminent, one that promises decisive, no-nonsense governance to replace tired rhetoric. The approach is defiant, demanding a return to a more assertive style that appeals to American pride.
Your whole monologue, you didn't mention Republican, really.
No, it's all about Dems.
He's just pro-American. He's blurring the line for everything. And 4 years ago, he's not a real conservative. He's going to destroy the Republican Party. But sooner or later, everyone's talking about America. They're not talking about Republican. And that may get some people sad.
To wrap up, we have learned that the discussion here is a searing critique of a presidency characterized by perceived missteps and failures. Through a series of extended, unaltered quotes, the account paints a picture of a leadership that has faltered both domestically and internationally, leaving behind a trail of broken promises and neglected responsibilities. The reflections throughout challenge the current state of affairs and call for a return to a more robust and traditionally grounded style of governance. Before we conclude, consider this final thought.
So he's not a conservative in the sense like that's always been. He's evolved, and we should all evolve. When you stop evolving, then you become a dumbass.
Hey.
All right. I got to move on. Before we go, we have a big announcement.
Reflecting on all that we have heard, how do you see the evolution of American political identity influencing our future?